I built my relationship with the Lord during my darkest days, and I was far from perfect during that time. I was, if you're on your way to work and you typically leave 2 hours early because you take the train and you're at a bus stop and you see someone that's houseless, instead of moving to the next bench because you're afraid of what they're going to do to you or pitying them and giving them $1, why don't you ask how their day is going? I feel like it's even more instrumental when there's more going on to stand firm and wanting to heal.
Welcome back to We Are Meant to United podcast, Natasha. It is so great to see you again. So honored to have you back on the channel. And the last time we spoke was almost the end of 2024. It's been a little over a year, so I'm very excited to catch up with you. And I'm sure at least some of our audience have also been looking forward to a part 2 of our conversation. So very excited to have you here.
Very excited to be speaking with you guys. You guys are the OGs, and you guys have a beautiful organization, and the work you guys do is amazing. So to even have the opportunity to, have a conversation and it be showcased on your platform is an honor as well. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for the kind words, and thank you for being here. For folks who might not be too familiar with you, I'll let you very briefly introduce yourself. If people are in Colorado, they most likely know you for your advocacy, for your work with the houseless. You invite us to so many events. But for those who might not know you, briefly introduce yourself. And I also will encourage at this point for people to make sure to check out part 1 because there's going to be a lot of recurring themes in our conversation.
Yes. I'm Natasha Barshalom. I'm 37 years old. Moved to Colorado during my acknowledgement of just how saturated I was in trauma. I'm known in the city for the work I do in the community. For me, it's more of my own personal healing journey and building a relationship with God and just trying to fully step into discernment and obedience. And through my own acknowledging of my own pain, I kind of grew a social movement, turned to a nonprofit. And I think that was more so because of how organic and real it was. There was never a goal of becoming a business or anything like that. It was more so wanting to shed my trauma and step into the version of who I saw myself becoming, and just allowing my heart to be wide open, which is where the, community service comes into play.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be diving a little bit into all those pieces. It's always so encouraging and empowering, honestly, to be in any physical space that you are in. So I always just love coming to like anything you're doing, anything you invite me to. So let's roll it back a little bit. Last time we talked, like I said, it was in November. What has shifted for you? Like what's been going on with you professionally, personally? What have you been up to?
Great question. Been up to a whole lot of stillness. Kind of stepping back a little bit. Things happened really quickly. Like I said, I moved here. I've experienced infertility. I was completely saturated in pain, and I really just wanted to heal. And as stated, we've been on the news 22 times in total in Denver for the work that I do. And it has a lot to do with how I became a nonprofit and how quickly things happened. Like when I first started hosting Winning Wednesday, for those of you that don't know what Winning Wednesday is, it's my popular event. It kind of feels like a family reunion, more so a community reunion, just kind of highlighting that your current circumstances don't define who you are. We are all deserving, no matter what walk of life you're experiencing. So we bring people together. We highlight the power of relationship building and acknowledging your skill sets. So to answer your question directly, what I've been doing this year is kind of just stepping back into my why, and how this all even started. Once we became a nonprofit, it kind of attention transferred from impact and healing to like being profitable, like not profitable, but like bringing in grants. And because it was going, my event started with serving 30 people, and now if I host a Winning Wednesday, we're looking at like 180, 200 people showing up. Obviously, when I first started, I was funding these events on my own, and I can't feed 200 people lobster and steak on a Wednesday basis. So I had to step away and remember what started this journey for me. And it was not so, it wasn't focused on trying to help others, if I'm being honest. It was more so me wanting to help myself. And me truly stepping into being this version of myself. And I think when anyone does that, it's going to radiate outward. And that's where the growth came. So this year, I've really just kind of attending church a lot more. I'm writing my second book. Um, I've gotten into poetry. So just really wanting to spend time with myself, acknowledge my accomplishments and my growth and healing, so that when I do get back into serving and being the events that I'm popular for, it stays rooted to how it started.
That's really amazing. Thank you for sharing that with me. Um, just
Yeah.
just one of the themes that is important in your life has become, your relationship with God. And me and you have had this conversation off camera, but you speak about how most of the times religious institutions and their viewpoints on like what is right and wrong can separate people or distance people from God and religion. And I just wanted you to touch a little bit on that because I just thought you had a very powerful take on it.
Yeah. Um, you know, I built my relationship with the Lord during my darkest days. And I was far from perfect during that time. I wasn't in gratitude. I was attempting suicide frequently. I was self-sabotaging. I was hanging around the wrong crowd of people. And that's when God reached his hand out for me. I don't. I love church. Do I attend church? Yes, but I also understand those that have a hard time um, understanding the power behind having a relationship with God. It's not about. I don't even know how to explain this. It's you really just you open your heart. Like for me, God is the frequency of love, the frequency of faith and consciousness, and understanding that even the suffering and the pain serves a purpose. And not getting so caught up in like the keeping up with the Kardashian of things. Like we've kind of been taught in this country to like be very self-absorbed and like want to show all the time. What do I have? Versus what do you have? And I feel like when you kind of step away from that and you step into like what's going to serve the collective, that's when you can't deny the presence of the Lord. Um, it's how we were created. I feel you don't have to attend church every Sunday, to have a strong relationship with God. I know when I got baptized last year in Colorado Springs, they give you like this pre baptism phone call. And
Mm.
she wanted to hear my testimony, and I was telling my story and what I've overcome. And at the end of it, she was like, I'm not wanting to offend you, but the entire time you were speaking of your relationship with God, you never brought up Jesus. Um, so I feel like you need more time in the church. And for me, it's not a that's not what it's about, right? I feel like Jesus is a representation of the work of God, what love truly looks like, what giving without an expectation of return looks like. It's not I don't have to bring up Jesus every other sentence to have a relationship with God. And I'm not going to accept your judgment or the way you're cornering me or making me feel like I don't have a relationship with God because we don't speak the same. Um, Even with Winning Wednesday, I may not get up there and preach the word, but you're going to leave Winning Wednesday feeling the presence of God. You're going to, things are going to stick out to you. You know, the people that were supposed to be serving the houseless, they're quick, want to help break down the setup. They want to offer their bus pass, and that's when you kind of back and question like, oh, I was extremely judgmental of them and their circumstances, but when I was out there with those people, they were some of the best people I've encountered, and those are for me, that's my relationship with God. Like that's what it's
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really beautiful. And I used to talk about this for many, many years before I spoke to you about it, about just like the institutionalization of religion and how sometimes, at least, it can push people away because of certain things that are not accepted or like not welcome in the church. So I just, I wanted to bring that up a little bit and also I love how you described it as like you can see goodness in people whenever you're doing a kind act, and that in itself is like a representation, um, or, so a representation of
And
uh,
I feel like it's really important when you do have a strong relationship with God.
mhm,
Um, you're not going to be so focused in on what someone's doing or what their circumstances look like. You're going to be present in the moment, and you're going to receive discernment and be able to meet people where they're at. And if,
mhm,
something the Bible or constantly like trying to project my beliefs onto them, push them away, and that's not what we want. We want people to feel the presence of the Lord. So sometimes things don't have to be said. Just open your heart and you step in that walk, and it the point is going to get across.
mhm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, and in this conversation, we also talked a little bit about like Winning Wednesday and your relationship with a lot of unhoused folks and that loving and empowering relationship. And you share about it all the time on Instagram. And, I just, it's very encouraging, empowering. What have you seen in the last year and a half or so in these communities? Like what needs have been arising for them? And also, from the angle of mental health, like what have you seen is most in need in these communities?
Peer support, true peer support, less resources. You people like to judge, right? Because you see someone on the side of the road holding up a sign, their circumstances are being showcased, and you automatically, oh well, let me give $1, let me give a jacket, not realizing that yes, it may be needed, but a lot of the people that live in the streets, they're hustlers. They know how to come up with the things that they need. Until you're living the sidewalk of Colfax, dealing with the screens and the weather changes, all of that, you'd be surprised human nature, God within all of us, how powerful and how productive you become to get the things you need to stay alive. So when you're houseless, you're in that situation a lot more than someone that is comfortable and has a roof over their head and has all the things. So I really get kind of bummed out. There's so many nonprofits and there's so many community activists in the state of Colorado.
Mhm,
Um, but it seems like it's always focused on what we're giving to people. These people are not chibi cases. These people are nieces, nephews, and moms and dads. And um, in a subconscious way, it's degrading, right? If if you automatically think because someone's living in the street that the only thing they want from you is your money or something to eat, you don't know how that makes somebody feel, like mentally. It's really important that we're opening our hearts and we're able to, it's just important that we see people and we look past someone's circumstances, what look like, what they smell like, and focus on people's spirits and ask how people are doing. Spend, take one of our houseless neighbors out to lunch. Hang out with them. Sit, if you're on your way to work and you typically leave 2 hours early because you take the train and you're at a bus stop and you see someone that's houseless, instead of moving to the next bench because you're afraid of what they're going to do to you or pitying them and giving them $1, why don't you ask how their day is going? Why don't you look them in their eye? Why don't you hug, give a smell? Because a lot of the time, the same thing you see in, people that get out of the hood, right? Or were born into projects. A lot of them better their situation to where financially they could leave that neighborhood, but they tend to stay because there's a sense of community there. They're seen, which is why there's so many houseless people that are still remaining on the streets, even they have a voucher and they have there. You don't know how many houseless individuals I know that have received housing and they will still sleep outside because it's more comfortable for them because they're seen, they're acknowledged, they're a part of something. Humans want to be a part of something. Um, so that's something that I've noticed, from when I started serving in the community 5 years ago. We've been doing Wednesday. I've seen millions of dollars being awarded and giving out houses, apartments, food, but people are still struggling. The same people that are getting all the resources. So I don't step away from being so money driven and focus on the bag, whether if it's us in the bag or trying to make the bag. Why don't we step and be present and be centered and open our heart and acknowledge that we are the real currency. We're the value. We don't have to be so honed in on that aspect of things.
Beautiful. And this just reminded me of, I think it was in April, I came to one of the Winning Wednesday events, and then I think I was just talking to some people that I recognized, and you came in and you were like, just setting the tone for the event, and then you said something across the lines of, "There's no forming cliques today. You have to go and like speak to everyone." And we were like, I think that's us, and we just like disband and we went to speak with folks we've never spoken to before. Um, and like I thought it was just so important for you to set the tone, because otherwise, like humans are familiar creatures, so you're just gonna go to someone who either who like looks like you maybe. So I just thought that was so significant. And then throughout the night, like I was speaking with people who, to be honest with you, like in any other scenario, I don't really see how we would be in the same circle or like how we would have started a conversation. So you set the tone for that. So I want to shout you out for that. But also if you want to expand a little bit on that, please go ahead.
No, I just learned through my own testimony that true growth comes from the uncomfortable moments. I recently lost my dad in 2022. He was a huge part of a man, a great person. He never turned his back on family, but he was known for being blunt and saying how he felt. And he's Jiminy Cricket. And when I back up my life and I see how far I've come and the person I'm becoming, it was those uncomfortable moments when my dad put me on the spot or called me out, or even in life when it's not my dad, like when life happens and you're unprepared. That's really when you are able to see the God in you. and you realize that I overcame that. I wasn't prepared. So it's not, there's been people that come winning Wednesday and they're a little rubbed wrong by the way I do things, but just trying to highlight, especially when houseless is involved. I'm not here to sugarcoat, make sure you feel comfortable. This event is not, we even have volunteers. If you come in Wednesday, it will look like we're getting back to houseless, but everyone that is attending is eating the food, has access to complimentary haircuts, massages. This is not about putting spotlight on a certain group of people and making them different than us. That's why that comment was made. Yeah, don't most people go to the event with someone. You didn't come to this event take it with the person that you came with. It's about getting to know each other. We're focused on creating the community. And even we may be different, we look different, we may speak different, we may have different beliefs. Yes. It's not, I just feel it's really important to get uncomfortable and get to see people and to put the judgment aside. Like, who am I to say I can't talk to you because you look different than or you speak different than me? Like that, to me, it's just ignorance. And calling ignorance out should happen, regardless it. I'm not worried about offending you. Like that personal problem with yourself. If I say something that's true to my beliefs and who I am, and it has to trigger you, you're welcome. Now you're going to learn from that triggerment. That's how it works.
That's awesome. What when we speak about like winning Wednesday and working with the houseless of like less privileged folks, are there any patterns or challenges that are becoming more prevalent this year?
Um, trying to stick with the original program. Like one thing about Winning Wednesday that I was really focused on is not having assembly lines, not giving the food out that are the scraps of a store of things that are soon to be expired. Like I really want to provide home cooked, top quality food that makes you feel good. And due to the growth, really just the legality of things. I didn't have a goal of becoming a nonprofit. I'm a ninth grade dropout. This was not what I thought was going to happen. And I serve people regardless if it's being shown like the version that people see me as Winning Wednesday. I'm like that all the time, not just on Wednesdays. But before I get back out there and start Winning Wednesday, I have to acknowledge we have 200 people that show up. And I'm known for, providing Cuesta's food and, the food that it's pricey. Like I'm just trying to understand what I got to do now that I am a nonprofit, become more successful at grant writing, building relationships with nonprofits that understand the work that I do, because I don't think I would have gotten to this point or been recognized the amount of times that I did on the news if it wasn't for partnerships. Shout out Colorado Village Collaborative, shout out the Denver Foundation, shout out Urban Peak, Mentally United. The partnerships have really helped me, but I need mentorship. That's one of the reasons why I kind of stepped back this last year. I don't know what I'm doing. This was not my plan. I was trying to keep myself from committing suicide. I was trying to heal. I was trying to acknowledge my trauma. And it grew into something that was beyond me and that I was not prepared for. But my relationship with God is not going to let me step away from that, because by me opening my heart and acknowledging my suffering and wearing it and stepping into humility, it's bled outward and it's helping other people. So I've given it to God and I pray on it, and the right people will come forward. I've been praying a lot for mentors, and I'm also okay with, stepping away from being a nonprofit and just stay focused on the work that we're doing. Winning Wednesday was able to feed hundreds, if not thousands of people. And it never cost us a dollar in the beginning. The first 2, 3 years, everyone that was offering haircuts was doing it because they wanted to offer haircuts. The people that were giving massages, I was not paying anybody. But once we were on the news and once we got the buzz of being a nonprofit, and then the people that were volunteering realized what we were doing and that there could be money involved, now all of a sudden everybody wants to be paid because they're assuming that I'm getting paid. I'm not getting paid. I paid for my events. When things were needing to be paid for, I paid for that. Or I provided some type of value or exchange to get the barber to come and do hair for free. I did makeup at Denver Fashion Week for 4 years in a row, touching 15 to 20 faces a day, working 16 hours and never been paid a dollar. And that's why I was able to have people come and do haircuts and come and braid hair because they saw what I was doing. So it made them want to do it. It was more so understanding, highlighting that we are the currency. You don't always have to have money to be in a position to make things happen. So just trying to stay rooted in that, and differentiate. Am I going to remain a nonprofit, or are we going to become successful at fundraising and operate as a social movement? At the end of the day, I have to acknowledge how this even started, and it started by me wanting to heal and grow. That's that.
Amazing. So, Natasha, there's been some buzz around the new podcast, Triggered. Can you tell us a little bit about this new podcast you've been working on?
Yes, super excited about the new podcast. It does come out the last week of January, and it's really putting spotlight on the importance of our triggers, a lot of our day-to-day behavior, and you know, how we see ourselves and the way we walk in life has to do with our triggers. A lot of people put a lot of focus on the negative triggers, not really realizing that there are positive triggers as well, but even the negative triggers are necessary. And that's what brings you to the positivity. A lot of spotlight on corruption, ends up, to be the best version of yourself as an individual, you have to acknowledge and you have to acknowledge the importance of the collective and who you're around and what you consume, and understanding that, sometimes you may be triggered, but that doesn't mean that you need to tap out. Something that I've really learned in Colorado, I'm not really used to it, is how quick people are to put their phone on do not disturb because they're trying to protect their mental health, or people don't want to go to certain outings because it could possibly trigger them, not realizing that you're holding yourself back. You're leaving opportunities on the table by not embodying your true strength and stepping into those triggers. My nonprofit name is Triggered Futures, and I got a lot of kickback from that. A lot of people were like, I don't think that's a good idea for a name for a nonprofit. A lot of people think of triggered and they think of gun violence, or it's kind of embodying the negativity, and that made me want to choose the name even more, because I would not have come to a point of surrendering and getting to know God. I would not have come to a point of wanting to change bad habits within myself or my friend group if I'd never paid attention to the triggers. But it also doesn't mean that you have to isolate yourself or become like a hermit because you've experienced a lot of trauma, and a lot of things are going to trigger you. I've been through every ounce of trauma you could think of, from physical abuse, mental abuse, rape, molestation, infertility, widow, loss. So when you experience trauma ongoing, it could become really easy to protect yourself by isolation and like staying away from everything that triggers you. And I don't feel like that's I don't feel like that's, you know, our purpose here on earth is to be isolated and boxed off because of our triggers.
Mm-hmm.
So triggered conversations is really just gonna allow, you know, I'm working really hard to curate a safe space for people to feel comfortable in their triggers and understanding their triggers and use those triggers to build armor and to become your strength versus allowing the triggers to weaken you or keep you from experiencing certain things that could help you grow.
Incredible. In our last conversation, there was a lot, we spoke quite a bit about like triggers on the podcast. So I thought it was like such a full circle moment that now
Yeah.
you're going to be having this platform called Triggered, that, you know, lots of people are going to come on and have these conversations with you. So I'm super excited. We're gonna be linking it in the description as it comes out, so folks can you know, check it out and also have a really amazing and connecting time with you. So yeah,
Yay.
you spoke a little bit about like creating safe spaces. Can you tell me a little bit about like what safety might look like, whether that's emotional, environmental? What does safety look like for you or for the people around you?
For me, which ends up being for people around me, is really the ability to fully be present in the moment and, you know, support having people around you that don't hold your circumstances over your head. Um, really, a safe space is the ability to be present in the moment and know, you know, I like to think of nature when when I'm thinking of curating a safe space, right? Like you see these trees that have been around for 200-300 years and you think like, okay, well, over a course of 200 years there's been blizzards and windstorms and hail and the tree still stands. Was the tree comfortable going through that? Probably not. You know, it lose some the roots and some branches and leaves shed, and then it comes back. And I feel like a safe space is comes from within and understanding that we are created in God's image, and that's a powerful thing to embody. You know, I think one of the main reasons why a lot of people, especially in 2025, steer away from religion and kind of lean more towards spirituality and religion, it's really taught to us to like give credit elsewhere when it's good, and when it's bad we have to put the spotlight on us, but when things are good you give glory to God, right? Like you had nothing to
Hmm.
do with it. And that doesn't sit well with people. um, and I understand that I was one of those people, but I have to understand that when you give glory to God you give glory to yourself, because when you have a firm relationship with God, then you truly have a firm relationship with yourself and you know what you're capable of. You have no doubt. It may be hard to get through an uncomfortable situation that you may not feel safe in, but if you dig within yourself and you really focus on being present, I feel like the safety curates on its own, and that's the energy of love and faith and hope and knowing that you're going to get through whatever it is making you feel unsafe.
Hmm. That's really beautifully put. And I, with your reference to like how trees and nature, you know, live through decades of whether that's like changing weathers or blizzards. I thought that was beautiful. And funnily enough, it has been referenced previously on this podcast. So it's just a recurring theme, and I just wanted us to sit a little bit with that. That's really beautiful. That something else I want to ask you that's connected with that is, what does healing look like when stability is not guaranteed? Especially at the current moment, there's just so much going on. Things are changing so fast. But how do we still persist in our healing journey, while all this noise is going on in the background?
I feel like it's even more instrumental when there's more going on, to stand firm and wanting to heal, or staying on the path of healing, and understanding that social media does a great job at making healing look like this beautiful, delicate, peaceful, zenful place. I mean, that's great if that's what your healing journey has looked like. But for me, I could only speak the truth. And I've learned through my 37 years of living that truth can't be told, it's experience. What's true for you, Naomi, may not be true for me because we've lived a different life. And my healing has been, it's been uncomfortable, and that's okay though, because when you focus on the outcome and you don't make it about you, because most of us accountability is huge when you're healing. Looking back at a lot of the things that I've been through that were painful or traumatic, instead, like for instance, my husband passing away, right? I spent 15 years with this man. I'm someone that prides myself in keeping my relationship sacred and private. I'm in a relationship with one other person. I don't need to call my friend and vent every time things go bad. So for the outside, for those that were in me and my husband's life and witnessed our relationship on the outside, they saw a very loving, peaceful, never had issue type of relationship. And 15 years into the relationship, I packed a backpack and I walked away, um, because it wasn't just peaceful and beautiful and full of love. There was a lot of trauma there. We fell in love through trauma bonding. And I was not, during the time of me walking away from that relationship, I was also starting my healing journey, and I lost 200 pounds. I was 367 pounds. I lost 200 pounds. So a lot of people, they hung on to the fact that our relationship was perfect and ideal. And now you went from being 360 to 140 and you're walking away from the relationship. So it must be, you must think you're too good for him now. And you're the reason why he died. My husband died drinking and driving. But it also was suicide. I know the voice recordings that were left on my voicemail 14 minutes prior to him passing. We had separated for the first time ever in 15 years, and he passed away 28 days later. And that caused a ripple effect, and, everyone pointed their finger at me. I became a murderer overnight. I wasn't even allowed to attend my husband's funeral. And even though we were not legally married, he was actually legally married still the entire time we were together. I spent 15 years with this man every day, living together, no separations. And in most states, after 7 years of living with someone, moving towards the same path, that's a marriage, right? And I had to acknowledge, instead of me pointing the finger and blaming everyone for how it felt not being invited to the funeral, or kind of being to blame for his passing because I walked away from our relationship, I had to take accountability and acknowledge my role and how I moved in that relationship. And instead of just like me not wanting to tell everyone when it was bad, I don't like confrontation. I had a very verbally aggressive dad. My discipline as a child was verbal, so I didn't like verbal altercation. I've never experienced getting a whooping. I'm 37. I've never been in a fight. Violence just didn't really live in my world, but violence of the mouth did. Um, and but I wanted to be comfortable. My safe space was avoiding it, right? So when he passed and I felt the energy of so many people kind of blaming me, instead of me attacking them back, like, you guys have no idea, I was in a relationship with an alcoholic. I was, having intercourse when I didn't want to have intercourse. Like, there was a lot of things. But if I would have, instead of me putting focus on things that I can't control how someone else shows up day to day. I have no control over that, but I do control how I move. So if I would have spent the 15 years trying to be present and acknowledging, like, hey, you're drunk. I don't want to have intercourse right now. I know because you're drunk, me telling you no is probably going to turn into a fight. So I'm just going to lay back and have intercourse with you, knowing that it's hurting me. And instead of facing the problems as they came, because I was looking for that safety blanket, I avoided them. And then 15 years later, woke up one day, packed a backpack and left, and gave them no warning of it. And not in that moment when it overboiled, right? And I left, I lost sight of his testimony and his story and what he comes from and what that would probably do to him. I fell in love with someone that was born addicted to crack, grew up in Watts, California. He was born in 1980, so he experienced the Watts riots. All of his family gangbanged. He had a very different upbringing than I did. And I knew the entire time we were together the role I played in his life. I was like the shiny, like, I've made it. I have love. Your family accepts me. I'm going to family dinners, like things that he didn't experience. So that being taken away cold turkey, 28 days later, he's gone. He died. So, answering the question of what does safety look like when everything is kind of chaotic or during these times, it's detrimental. It's instrumental, I should say, to remember and acknowledge and embody that safety. It's really like a mental warfare. It comes from within, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like, if I could go back and change things, I would have let Phil know every time he did something that was hurting me, instead of brushing it under the rug, looking for a safety zone in that moment, not realizing that facing things head on and stepping into your strength and acknowledging that I can overcome this, that's true safety, not hiding and like going under a weighted blanket. It's a mask, and this country thrives off mask. That's why we have, the drug pandemic that we have. That's why they capitalize off suffering. There is no true healing because it's presented like it's this beautiful, delicate situation, and it's not. Like, safety is you have to work for a true safe environment. You have to put in the work. Things are not just, oh, you feel uncomfortable right now, okay, well, let me coddle you and baby you. Like, how is that helping us long term? Like, right now we have the president of the United States telling Venezuela that they're about to take over their country, and like anarchy and the chaos is necessary. You can't have a rainbow without the rainstorm. Like, rainbows don't come if there is no rain and thunder and a storm. That's the outcome of making it through the storm, is the rainbow. Like, and I feel like a lot of us need to acknowledge the truth, and it's not all butterflies and peaches. It's okay. We're strong, and it comes with all of us. Like, we're not going to feel that type of safety as a country until we embody the truth collectively. We can't have 5 people over here saying that they are okay with being uncomfortable and it being tough and it being hard work, and then we have these people over here doing sound baths and giving out free lunch, and like, that's going to keep people in the streets. That's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is people do not acknowledge their own strengths. People do not acknowledge what we are built to overcome. People do not acknowledge that this is not a Naomi show. This is not a Natasha show. This is not a KOSM show. This is not a Mentally United show. This is what's best for the collective so that we can continue on and have hundreds of years more of humans and not just a world of robots and wipe us out. Like, if everyone's walking around with their phone on do not disturb and I can't go because I have anxiety and I have PTSD and I have depression, and I like, stop embodying that. Stop claiming that over your life and understand that, yeah, you've been through hard times. You've been through some stuff. You put any person in the United States in front of a therapist, those first questions that the therapist asks you are all focused around trauma. And most of us have experienced trauma. So now you get to write down on a piece of paper that I'm broken and I'm supposed to just accept that? No, that's not true healing. That's not true safety. I'd rather go through the dark, stub my toe, get stabbed 1 or 2 times to truly embody safety versus thinking I'm safe and then being caught off guard to find out that this has not been safe.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha, so much for really diving deep into that. And I know me and you talk about this all the time, but it never makes it easier. So I'm really sorry for some of the things that happened, but I am glad to see you here, like the strong woman that you are, and share your story. So thank you again for that. A little bit tying into that, I had a question around what do you think is most misunderstood when it comes to trauma and PTSD? And this can even be on the large scale. I think as a nation, we've experienced trauma, and now we are creating cycles of more trauma.
Yeah. Oh, man, I have a lot to. Again, accountability. Stop pointing the finger. Stop victimizing yourself. Stop with, I'm not trying to sound hardcore or harsh, but as a collective, as a nation, a lot of what we go through is self-inflicted because no one is willing to get uncomfortable and experience what true safety feels like. And the chaos and the pain, I know you personally, and I know your heart, and I know your friend, like I know your energy. So I understand what you mean by saying, hey, I heard what you've been through and I'm sorry that you've experienced that. But if you were a stranger and we didn't know each other, I would tell you, Naomi, don't be sorry. Those moments are pivotal in my life. And I would not be on this path today if I did not experience the bad. People have to understand the true definition of duality. They go hand in hand. You have to have both. You cannot just have a world of beauty and bliss. It would not be beauty and bliss without the bad. And I just want people to focus more on their actions, their role, the way they carry themselves. Same thing, like we said in the beginning of the interview. I became a nonprofit on accident. That was not what I was. Life. My mom, she would be in the middle of a movie when I'm having a breakdown, and it's her favorite part. And the winning, the aspect and dynamic of Winning Wednesday was me getting the true support that was available. My friends and family were not there to support me, but the man that was living on the street, that seen, real people always say real recognize real. No, we're all reflections of each other. So if you have experienced rape and I have experienced rape, I don't necessarily even have to bring up that I've been raped. But if you've been through it and you could tell by certain body language or the way I respond to certain topics, you would be able to see, oh, I could kind of tell that she's experienced something that I've experienced. And that's what I was experiencing when I was really ready to tap out. I was gravitating towards these people that are called houseless or homeless, right? These are just people that have their backs against the wall and have experienced trauma, and they take accountability for it. You have to take accountability to grab a pen and write it on a cardboard box and hold it up in front of somebody. Ask someone that does have money in the bank to write down their deepest wound on a piece of paper and hold it up for a whole bunch of strangers to see. That's humiliation, and there's the power and the presence of God in that. And it's necessary. Same thing, you know, not trying to make this a real religious thing, but the same thing you see in the Bible. You know, one of the things that I don't appreciate, which is why I published my book in religion, is, you know, they deliver the word from a Bible and they speak as though it's past tense, like this happened way back then and it's not happening right now. You and I are embodiments of discipleship. Like the book is literally a book of testimonies, stories that people overcame like hard times through staying focused on good, love, giving without an expectation of return, doing the right thing, even if it's going to put you backwards, but it's the right thing for the people, for the collective. That's what the Bible is. It's a book of stories, and we all have stories. We all have things that need to be projected outwards so that we can continue to evolve. Like humans are, we're inspired by one another, and just accountability and not being afraid to acknowledge what you've been through and to talk about it. That doesn't mean that you're like dwelling in it, but it reminds you, like these interviews are huge for my healing journey because it reminds me, it gives me a platform, it gives me that safe space to be present. There's no distractions. It's you and I speaking. You're asking me questions that are focused on what I've been through. This is healing. This is how you heal. You have an opportunity to block everything out, face what you've been through head on, talk about it, keep your head high, and be productive in what you want to be. To me, it's simple, and we overcomplicate it. And the first time I witnessed that was in Colombia. I went to Colombia. I was thriving in my work career. The company that I worked for put me in a high rise in Pueblo where all the American tourists were. And it was great. It was a beautiful experience. But 5 months in, when I started to build bonds and relationships with my employees, and I had an opportunity to move in with a Colombian family, it hit me. I'm living with a family that literally lives off of $522 a month US. There's 5 people living in the household. There's no electronics. We're washing our clothes in the river. You literally have to hike, like a 2-mile hike to get home. And I didn't experience arguments. I didn't experience frustration, this quote unquote PTSD. This is a third world country that is taught in our history books is like dangerous, scary. Everyone's broke, drug everywhere. How is it that I live 5 minutes away from Pablo Escobar's neighborhood and I didn't witness any drug saturation? I didn't witness any mental instability. I didn't see one person in 14 months holding a sign begging for money. I saw people on the side of the road juggling fruit, walking on wire, making shoelace holes. They were acknowledging, yes, I'm financially struggling. I need some help, but I'm going to work for the help. I'm going to do my part. I'm not going to expect to tell you my sad story and you're going to give me something in return. That's not a true transaction. That's why they end up staying in the streets, because it's not about that. It's not about giving the houseless $1. It's about seeing people and stepping into our truth. And it was just mind-blowing to me that I'll never forget the day that I got my passport. I'm calling my friends. I'm like, my job is sending me to Colombia. And they're like, girl, you're acting like you're going to the Bahamas. You're going to a dangerous place. I've never experienced bliss in that way ever in my life, which is really what created Winning Wednesday, because I was supposed to stay out there on a 5-year visa. COVID happened. I was required to get vaccinated. I wasn't getting vaccinated, so I had to come home early. The second I got back to the United States, not even 5 minutes being off the plane, I was suicidal again. Depressed. Why? Because in this country, our main focus is money, what we have, what we don't have, what this person's doing, what do I look like, judgment constantly. In Colombia at 3 o'clock, the whole country shuts down because everyone is focused on eating together. Everyone is focused on being together and embodying each other. And we weren't put on this earth to get to the bag. That's not our purpose.
Yeah, yeah, couldn't agree more, honestly. And we keep drawing these narratives about what specific parts of the world look like or what people's lives are in those places. And those narratives are very dangerous as we are now coming to see the results of these narratives that we've been putting out there for the last few years. So yeah, it's going to be a tough few years for that. But I also want to speak about how you have taken your experience from Colombia and then been able to create spaces here within our community in Colorado, whether that's, getting involved with poetry. You've been part of a bunch of open mic nights. And I was also at your vision board event for 2026, which was a blast. But can you tell us a little bit about like what kind of healing takes place in these spaces, and what makes them unique?
Again, being present, being with the people, um, putting spotlight on the different walks of life and truly taking those in and acknowledging that a lot of the suffering and a lot of the struggling is by choice. Because if we all came together and we all got on the mic and said what we bring to the table, what skill sets we have, you would come to learn that there is no suffering. There's no need for nothing. Naomi may be able to handle, she's a great cook. This person over here does this great. And when you join forces and you acknowledge that, I don't know, it's really just focused on presence and the people and putting really putting the distractions aside and being with one another. Like spirit naturally is going to be inspired and pick up on things. And it's the same thing that happened, when I came back from Colombia. I was first in Las Vegas, and I'm like, man, everything here is triggering me and making me feel like I can't move forward. Like everyone around me, my friend group, everyone is like the old version of myself. And I moved to Colorado and I saw like this sense of community, and it's a very different place than Las Vegas. There's not open mics every day of the week and community activists, and you're not going to a rally in Vegas and there's 30,000 people showing up. But you see that here, and it's beautiful. But then once I got into it, and then I'm dealing with the people individually, and I'm really present. I'm not focused on like the buzz of it all, and I'm building relationships. I start to realize that it really is no different than Vegas. It's being presented differently because people want it a little bit more here, but there's still distractions. There's still lack of God. There's still, a lot of people have included like mushrooms and ketamine and all these holistic ways of healing with medicine. And I feel like the medicine is within us. Like, I'm an ambassador for a sip wellness drink that it's a microdose. I'm not against it, but I'm not gonna rely on that. I'm not gonna tell myself that every week I have to microdose mushrooms to be strong and and that's something that's really big here in Colorado. It's not that I'm like against the United States, but it became very clear to me being in a country versus living in a corporation. I come from sales and like corporate work, like, big money and big ticket sales and blue collar work. And uh, that's how this country operates. Where in Colombia, it's not focused on the growth, like it's not focused on like how it looks. It doesn't, Colombia doesn't care that the United States thinks that there's some, like they're over there just broke and the kids aren't eating, and the sad commercials that we see here in the United States, like they don't care that that's how we see them, because that's not their focus is on each other. Their focus is on having their heart open. Their focus is on less distractions. It doesn't matter the money that we have. We have each other. And that's something, that's another reason why I had to kind of step back from doing the work, because I was getting, like you said, I'm a human and we're habitual, and we're a product of our environment. So, when I started the work that I'm recognized for in Denver, I was ripped open. I was wide open, wounds showing everywhere. I was very vulnerable. There was no distractions. I had $207,000 in the bank. I had the best year I've ever had selling solar. I'm used to, making 5 sales a day, knocking doors for solar, and each sell is $1,500. Do the math. I don't come from poverty. And when you have $200,000 in the bank and you're still attempting suicide every other night, you start to realize that the image of things is a lie. Like, same thing with Colorado. Like, Colorado has helped me grow. Yes, I'm not bashing Colorado, but for the amount of activists, the amount of nonprofits, the amount of community leaders, I just feel like we should be living a very different scenario. And once you get into those partnerships and you build relationships with the people and you see how the nonprofits are moving, you start to realize, are we really healing? Are we really out here as activists, or are we stroking our egos? Are we self-absorbed and it's still focused on, wow, look what I did, look what I built? Do you truly care about the collective? Do you truly care about true healing and what safety looks like? Because I'm not going to allow my mentor to tell me that because I have PTSD written down on a piece of paper, that they recommend that I put my phone on do not disturb, and everyone that calls me has to call me 2 times to get me on the phone. And like, I'm just not going to accept that as a safety zone. To me, it's hindering us in the long run, because some things are out of our control. We are not prepared for everything that happens. With everything that's going on politically, we could, in the next hour, start getting bombed. What are you going to do? Put your phone on D&D? Like, tell the people outside that are at war that you have anxiety and this is too much for you? Like, that's not true safety. That's hindering people. That's teaching people to like not acknowledge how strong and capable you are.
Beautiful. Yeah. I'm really glad that you brought that up, and I feel like it needed to be said because, it's just, I don't know, as time goes on, we're moving closer and closer to that kind of narrative of like protecting your peace and stuff like that. But like you said, it's like, what is your peace when everyone in your community, everyone across the world is suffering? So I'm glad you brought that up. It's a conversation I have with my family quite a lot. Um, or like it's mostly with my family, like people who don't like want to watch the news or something like that. I'm like, well, it concerns you. But again, it's like
Right.
I feel like most of the time people are afraid to say what you just addressed. So I'm happy that we're able to have that conversation here. I want to ask you a little bit about like yourself. What have you been doing for your own mental health? You are out there in the community giving literally everything to people, but what do you do for yourself? Like, how do you stay grounded? How do you stay at one with yourself?
Anyone that's been to my apartment knows that I spend a lot of time in prayer. Um, I have scripture written on every wall of my bedroom. Um, I love to read. Conscious eating. I feel the best when I'm eating consciously and I'm portion control and I'm not indulging and overeating. Walks. Uh, uh, I know people won't think so, but I make a point, once a week, if not 2 times a week. I I do the things that are uncomfortable and would not look as though is pouring into me. But the more I put myself in those uncomfortable environments, um, or strenuous times, the more I realize once you get through it and you overcome it, like that's pouring into yourself. Like you're realizing like, oh wow, that sucked for a minute, but I overcame that. So um, I have a really weird relationship with money. I don't really believe in money. The first 3 years of Winning Wednesday, I had no income. Um, and prior to that, I had my best sales year and had $200,000. I feel like same thing, like you said, humans are habitual and we've been taught that you need money to do things and have things. But my best lived experiences came from when I had no money in the bank. I was just focused on being the best version of myself. So me pouring into me really is a lot of time reflecting, journaling, prayer, talks out loud. Um, and then, like I said, a few times a month, I make sure to do things that I don't necessarily want to do. But it highlights my endurance and it highlights my strength and it provides true safety in the long run. So
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that with me. We spoke a lot about like being uncomfortable and growth happens in uncomfortable spaces. So it's exciting to see that you yourself challenge yourself to be uncomfortable periodically so that you're able to experience growth. And that's something that we can all take something from. I want to ask you what is coming up for you in the next year. I know you spoke a little bit about your book. I know it's early, but please tell us just a little bit about it, just a little tease, and then tell us what's coming up for you so we can stay involved and connected.
yes. So my book that I'm working on now is going to be a spin-off of my first book. So I do have a book called Echoes of Faith, Spirit, Stories Written in Spirit. It's really my testimony, but every 3 chapters, it does include journal entries and like you writing your story. So by the time you're done reading my book, you should write your you should have the foundation of your book being told. Um, so just kind of diving into my testimony a little more. Um, some poetry is going to be involved in the book. It's going to kind of be like my journal being published. So it's not really like I feel like it's our way of keeping the Bible ongoing. Like I really was offended as someone that has a relationship with God, and I know my relationship is strong. I don't care how I speak, how I show up. My relationship with God is very strong, and He shows up in my life every day. No one can tell me otherwise. Um, but something that really doesn't sit well with me when it comes to religion is the past tense deliverance of the Bible. I feel like there should be a Bible written right now. there are definitely disciples here on earth today. Just because Jesus is not walking the earth does not mean that there are not testimonies to be told and God's work being done today. So my goal with these different variations of my story being told in the book is to try to gracefully start, if it's not me, like encourage someone that has the balls to like write another Bible. We need a 2025 version. There's the Old Testament, the New Testament. What about the newest Testament? The newer Testament. I just feel like our stories deserve to be told too. Like what's going to happen 400 years from now, I foresee that there's still humans around, where we're still going to be reading out of the First and Old Testament. Like, what about our testimonies? What about this generation of people? So that's my little book journey. I'm trying to find ways to get my message out there. Like, come on, collective, like, let's come together and all of us put our testimonies in a book, and we got round 3 of the Bible. I'm very happy in my partnership right now, my relationship. So, you know, if I'm curating events and telling people that healing comes with the ability of being present, like I want to embody what I have going on right now, and I'm falling in love again. I didn't think I would be able to fall in love after losing Phil. So I'm really enjoying that side of me. Like, you know, I come from mom and dad being together, aunt and uncle married, grandma and grandpa married. So I really appreciate like home life and cooking and having friends over and just that family love of your household. So I want to spend some more time in that and getting to know my partner and us healing together, but individually too. Winning Wednesday is going nowhere. Again, I really have, you know, coming from, you know, when I started to acknowledge my triggers, I had to step away from being money motivated. My entire work career has been sales. So it was really nice to kind of step away from that mindset and understand that money is a piece of paper, that it's backed up by nothing. It lost its value in 1971. I appreciate that I got to experience how abundant my life was when I was not touching money. I was traveling. I went to Colombia again. I went to Hawaii twice. I was back and forth from Vegas to California to Texas and I wasn't paying for anything. There was just things were happening where I was being invited, and I know it comes from the way I was living, the way my heart was wide open, the way I would put on a weekly event focused on feeding people and providing resources when the outside world doesn't know that I have no hot water at home. I have no heat at home. I have holes in my ceiling. Like I don't have income. I go days without eating. I'm constantly having to ask people for money to keep my head afloat when I'm not being provided for. So just continue like to keep myself present and focused on how my social movement was created and making sure that the why doesn't get distorted. I'm not worried about like figuring it all out as a nonprofit. I'm more so focused on being the best version of myself in my own personal healing journey and allowing what comes from that to impact others. And so, yeah, just this year looks healthy for me. Conscious eating. You know, my weight has gone up and down, so I definitely want to remain like centered with food is meant to fuel us. It's not for enjoyment. It's not to like overdo or overconsume. So just really where I was at when Winning Wednesday first started, that's where I'm at right now. I'm really focused on me. And I'm not saying that to sound any type of way, but again, it was impactful and it grew the way it did because it was real, it was raw, it was organic. And that's where the real impact was happening. As soon as I realized I was a nonprofit, realized people knew me in the city, realized that I'd been on the news 22 times, now I'm trying to like keep up with the hype of all of that. And I'm like, I'm struggling within myself. And then because I'm struggling within myself, my events are not feeling the same way. So 2026 is dedicated to acknowledging that Natasha wants to be the best version of herself. Natasha wants to heal. Natasha is not the traumatic situations that she's been through. And I'm excited because I know what comes from that journey because I've experienced already. So I think KOSM Triggered Futures has some exciting things in store. That's more so in God's hands, you know. The book is definitely coming. Getting comfortable doing poetry more. I really enjoy that illustration of telling my story. It's a little bit more fun. It's not so heavy. People receive it better. And yeah, showing up the best way I can so I can continue to have my heart open and love on people. Because, like you said, a lot of us are suffering. A lot of people are suffering, especially in this country.
Amazing. Well, that was absolutely incredible, Natasha. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You are a beautiful,
No,
beautiful
thank you.
person inside and out. So it's just an honor to have you on and really share your lived experience with myself and our audience here. Before we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to tell everyone your new Instagram handle, and also if you have like any last words before we close the episode.
Can you actually help me? I don't know is it Natasha Barshalom? I was caught off guard. I did not see my Instagram being taken. So if you are watching this, please give your girl a follow. I had 13,000 followers at one point. I'm now starting over with 400. I lost quite a bit of intellectual property because I didn't know what I was creating. And there were 2-3 years of doing the work and capturing those moments, and I only had it stored on Instagram. So that, you know, that taught me some things. If you are operating as a nonprofit, it's important to have your intellectual property stored elsewhere and also have a website and other ways for people to connect with you. So my Instagram handle is my name, Natasha Barshalom. Thanks for the follow. I am working on Triggered Conversations is launching the last week of January. I'm also going to start taking some of the work that we do in the community, kind of like vlog style, to YouTube. Same thing, Natasha Barshalom on YouTube. And yeah, that's really it.
Amazing. And I'm going to be linking it down in the description. And it's going to be popping out throughout the video. So folks will follow you. Natasha Barshalom at Barshalom Natasha. Thank you so much for being here and for joining me on a Sunday. You look fabulous in
Thank
your
you.
church outfit. Thank you
Yes.
so much. We'll probably do this again another year or two down the line. But I'm so honored to
Let's
have
go.
you and our
Same.
audience enjoy the episode. Make sure to watch part 1 on the channel.
Oh,
Just if
and we are bringing back the vision board gathering. So I know you attended the last
yes.
one. We have another, we're going to do it every quarter. So we have our next one, same location, the Corner Beat, phenomenal vegan restaurant off of Colfax and Clarkson, I believe, Corner Beat. And our next event is March 25th.
Amazing. Be sure to
Yeah.
check it out, folks. It's right by the Ogden Theater. It was my first time down there, so I just loved it. And tickets are available on
Yeah.
Eventbrite. I will be linking everything down in the description. So if you are in Colorado, we hope to see you out there in March or other quarters. But I appreciate you so much, Natasha. It's always a great time to catch up with you, and have a good
Same.
rest of your day.
You too, Naomi. Thank you, Mentally United. You guys are the best. And shout out to January. It's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Oh yeah, that's
So
amazing.
get your
Well,
mind right, y'all.
amazing.